Hey Reddit, when did your something's not right here gut feeling ever save you? My mom dropped my 3-year-old brother off at daycare before she had to work in the morning. When she got to work she had this terrible feeling something was wrong with him. She ended up leaving work and drove to the daycare. She found the daycare lady inside sleeping, while the daycare kids, including my brother, were running around the pool. My brother never went back to that daycare again. I had a gut feeling I should pull my wallet and phone out of my purse. Not even 20 seconds later, I get mugged. The man dragged me across the sidewalk and stole my purse, but all he ended up getting was a juice box and my birth control. Not mine, but my dad's. I was downstairs helping him with some woodworking when I was 10 or 11. He went to run a 2x4 through the table, saw when he noticed I was at his elbow rather than behind him. He stopped and told me to never stand behind a board when it's going through the saw in case it gets thrown. I thought he was being overly cautious, and I didn't have as good of a view from behind him, but whatever, I got behind him. He flipped on the saw and ran the board through. He only got 1/3 of the way through, though, when the blade hit a knot and flung the 2x4 hard enough to crash against the wall 10 feet behind. If I hadn't moved it would have hit me square in the chest and cold killed me. I was falling asleep in the car. My friend was driving. All of a sudden he stops talking, and I think to myself, WTF. Something's not right. I open my eyes and turn over. Dude was having a seizure. His legs were stiff as fuck, and his foot was on the gas. We were going downhill towards a busy intersection. We had the red. So I slammed the car in park and pulled the keys out. Car starts rattling, making a weird noise, but it gained so much momentum it was still rolling down. So I grabbed the steering wheel and veered us off the road into the side of an abandoned building. I opened his door and climbed over him. I was able to get him out and turn him on his side. The police officer that showed up was like, "You couldn't have done this in a safer fashion?" I just said sorry, but inside I was like, fuck you. I was an unpopular kid, and I always wanted to go on sleepovers, but it rarely happened. In 6th or 7th grade I get invited to this girl's house for a birthday party. I'm friendly with her but not close. I go to her house and I feel weird right away. Her mom and stepdad were sitting in the living room smoking, but being perfectly friendly. The whole night, I couldn't shake this feeling of oppressiveness, despair, and danger. I spent the evening keeping my guard up and keeping an eye out for the entire family without any idea why. At night the girl begs me to spend the night. Even though it hurt to say no, when I could tell she was desperate, I lied and told her my parents wouldn't let me when they said over the phone they would. A couple of months later, a student told me she had left the school and moved because her stepfather would molest her at night in her bed. I think of her often and hope she wasn't hurt that night and hope she's doing better, but I'm glad I got out. Not my gut feeling, but my sister once came back home when she'd already left to go to school 10 minutes earlier because she suspected something was wrong, prevented me from attempting suicide. I smelled burning plastic early in the morning at my family cottage and almost went back to sleep. I was around 15, but got up to investigate. A socket on the outside of the building had caught fire and flames were shooting up the wall. The rest of my family was still sleeping, and there wasn't enough smoke for the alarms to go off. I ran and got the fire extinguisher, got my dad up, and put it in his hands, and pointed him towards the fire. Stopped it and called the fire department. It didn't save me, but saved a friend. A big group of friends and I were walking home from an event in a town we weren't used to. It was night, and hardly anyone was around, empty streets and all that. We were walking down a sidewalk that had high fences next to it, so when you turned a corner, whatever was around it was out of sight. One of the girls fell behind, distracted by her phone, I think, and I noticed, so I started drifting behind as well, to become a sort of midway point between her and the group. Soon, we were nearing where we were staying, and our group rounded a corner, then started making their way into the yard where our living quarters were. I saw a car drive past us, then turn the corner down the street the girl was still on. As soon as I saw it, I suddenly got this suspicious, awful feeling, so I stopped and went back to the corner to keep an eye on the friend. The car drove past her, stopped, did a complete U-turn, and slowly started creeping up behind/alongside her. She was still on her phone and wasn't noticing a thing. I stepped out from behind the corner and started walking towards her. The car sped off quickly as soon as the driver saw me. It scares me that someone could have grabbed her and none of us would have seen a thing. It would have just been one of those cliche movie moments where you turn around and realize a member of the group is missing. To compound that potential tragedy, she'd just gotten engaged a few weeks prior. I think the fact that we had worked with some safe houses in the area that discussed human trafficking probably aided in me being on high alert, and the area we were in was known for that sort of thing. I used to never wear my seatbelt. This was before they were annoying as fuck if you didn't put it on. One time I was sitting in the passenger seat of a car and had a gut feeling to put it on. Not even a minute later we were hit by someone doing about 60 miles per hour. Cop said if I didn't have on my seatbelt I would have went through the windshield. I always wear my seatbelt now. My dad had to go to court to settle a way overdue payment for the place he worked at. He was going to take me with him so I can be more exposed to the adult world, so to speak. However, that meant he would have to leave the office back door unlocked so the rest of the staff could clock in. He suddenly didn't feel right about it and decided to have me man the office instead. He got T-boned outside the courthouse on the passenger side of the car that day. The car was totaled and I would have gotten severely hurt if I was there. We were looking at houses a while back and found one that was great location, would have been perfect size for us, and didn't appear to need any work other than new carpet and stuff I wanted to do, like painting and switching it over from oil burning furnace. I just had a nagging feeling about it and my husband agreed. As much as we loved it, something was off with it. I actually thought ghost or something silly like that, and we ended up passing on it. I was still kicking myself about it until a few months later when it had a major electrical fire. The whole house and everything in it was a total loss, and the family that lived there barely got out alive. I had gone to this bar back home with a few friends and afterwards everyone was supposed to go to this house party. I was game to go from the moment I was invited. Halfway through the night I had this gut feeling to not go. I told my best friend that she shouldn't go, but she insisted that she wanted to go because there were a few cute guys there. I couldn't shake the feeling that we shouldn't go, but she talked me into it. When we got in my car to head to the party, the guy feeling was worse. I grew up around cars and driver manual. My best friend is completely clueless when it comes to cars, so I deliberately grinded the gears and jerked the car and made it stall, acting like something was wrong. I pretended to try to fix what wasn't broken, and after about 15 to 20 minutes of fixing my car, cops and fire trucks followed by EMS flew by us. I fixed my car, but told my best friend that I just wasn't feeling well, and she agreed and said my car breaking down ruined her mood. So we went back to my place to watch movies. About an hour after getting home, we got a call from a friend of ours saying that the girl who owned the house and who was throwing the party was cheating on her husband, who was deployed and came back in leave to surprise her, and caught her in bed with his buddy. Dude pulled a gun and started shooting at this girl and his friend while everyone else fled the house. One time when my little sister and I wandered off in Superstore, a strange man was standing behind us in the toy aisle and I was getting super weird vibes about him. Keep in mind I was only around 9 to 10 and he also looked super shady. He had a big hoodie, dark sunglasses, you name it. Just screaming serial killer. So obviously my first thought was to just move away from him because we could just look at different toys anyways. Nope, apparently not. He just kept following us, but maintaining a small distance at the same time, and eventually I whispered to my sister that a man was following, and we started walking in circles around different aisles to lose him until we found our dad. I remember how he looked at us one last time before walking away. I was scared of strangers for a while after that, even though I was really outgoing as a kid. I was afraid he'd followed us home for some reason. And looking back on it now, he could have been trying to snatch us or something, but maybe he just wanted to help. But I'm pretty sure there was something wrong with him. A guy definitely roofied my drink at a bar. He was totally mild-mannered and not creepy at all. Asked me how to sign up for karaoke and pick a song. Sat beside me and talked casually. Didn't touch me once. But then he pointed to something behind my head to distract me. I looked away and looked back at him, and he was looking away from me into the crowd of people. Was a very stupid way to distract someone. to point and then act like you didn't do anything as opposed to pretending to have thought you saw something. Then, I saw him screwing one of those little canisters back shut on his keychain. I asked him what he kept in there to call him out. He was cold and expressionless as he began to slowly twist it back open and said there was nothing in there. I stopped drinking my drink and he performed his song. Then I sang, and he took off immediately after. It was really fucked up, and I'm glad he wasn't very smooth or IDK what cold happened. What always freaked me out was how normal he seemed before he became suddenly cold and robotic when I called him out on that canister thing. But it made me realize, of course a rapist would seem normal, that's how they get close enough to you to attack you.